Pop-up projects, 8 steps to success. This presentation will highlight active transportation pop-up demonstrations, what they are, benefits of these projects, and 8 steps to ensure successful planning and implementation in your community. Tactical urbanism, urban prototyping, planning by doing, pop-up demonstrations. While terms are often used interchangeably, these are all examples of collaborative approaches that empower citizens to test and visualize changes to the built environment before long-term investments are made. Reconfiguring the built environment and busy thoroughfares can help calm traffic and achieve more walkable, bikeable, and activity-oriented places. But permanent, large-scale changes can be costly and difficult to launch. Pop-up demonstrations use short-term, low-cost, and scalable interventions to catalyze long-term change for safer streets and healthier, more vibrant communities. Pop-up demonstrations provide a variety of benefits. They're a short-term tool to foster community engagement and buy-in, leverage partnerships, and accomplish a range of potential outcomes. In short, they're a chance to start small. Temporary interventions can be tested and inform the planning of costly, long-term solutions. So, what are the steps to a successful pop-up demonstration? The University of Delaware's Institute for Public Administration identified 8 steps based on case studies of successful transportation pop-up demonstrations in Delaware, and information gleaned from Delaware transportation officials, planners, local governments, and community leaders. First, start with a plan. Pop-up demonstrations just don't pop up. It's essential to carefully plan a process to implement a successful project. Also, it's important to start with a plan that has been officially adopted or vetted by a local government, metropolitan planning organization, governing body, school district, or an organization. A plan can justify the need for the project, provide the impetus to carry out recommendations, act as a critical reference point for those unfamiliar with project need, and serve as a basis for a future funding proposal. Second, establish a participatory planning process, which considers the goals of the project. Why are you doing this, and what do you hope to accomplish? The process should also consider these questions. What are the expectations, and are they realistic? What partners are needed, and how can stakeholders be involved? What are the costs, timeframes, and permitting needs? Who will continue to advocate for changes after the demonstration? The process should consider the planning and policy frameworks before undertaking a project, including transportation, governance, and finance. The majority of Delaware's transportation infrastructure is designed, constructed, and maintained by the Delaware Department of Transportation. More than likely, a DelDOT special events permit is needed for a project on a state roadway. Roles and extent of active involvement. Assign roles and responsibilities for both project volunteers and partners. Determine who will be responsible for post-event evaluation. Is there a need for formal policies, procedures, and guidelines to carry out the activity? Does the local jurisdiction or the elected officials need to approve the demonstration? If so, consider preparing a site plan and design schematic to illustrate what you intend to do. A traffic control and safety plan is more than likely essential. If COVID-19 safety protocols are in place, conduct virtual planning meetings, and when on site, ensure that volunteers wear masks and adhere to physical distancing requirements. Streets can transform into new spaces that help people safely maintain physical distance while enabling them to access local goods, services, and patronize outdoor dining. The National Association of City Transportation Officials' Streets for Pandemic Response and Recovery Guide is a great resource. It recognizes the need to adapt design strategies and policies to address changing pandemic reopening and recovery needs. Third, identify and engage community partners. Community engagement should be authentic and cannot be an afterthought. A project should be owned by the community both in terms of intellectual investment and personnel capacity. Organizers need to approach community dialogue to honor opinions, build community, and expand trust. Take time to involve key community members, decision makers, and/or elected officials, and organizations with deep ties to the community. They can help to involve residents who may not traditionally be engaged or represented in a planning process. Be sensitive to the time demands of people's everyday lives. In the new normal in the era of COVID-19, this may take the form of virtual meetings and engagement. 4. Collect baseline data. Depending on the project you choose and how much support there is in the community, collecting good baseline data is critical. The more complex or controversial the idea, the more data you need. Consider the need for vehicle speed studies, compliance data, and before photos. 5. Promote the event and educate the public. If possible, use both high-touch or on-site and high-tech or web-based techniques, such as on-site community meetings and/or virtual workshops, websites, flyers, posters and yard signs, surveys, news releases, civic association, community or municipal newsletters, social media, and electronic communications. 6. Design the project. And yes, the University of Delaware's Living Lab Research Group can assist with project design. Questions to address when designing the project include: what's the duration of the project? Is it supervised or unsupervised? What materials should be used based on the context of the specific project, the expected project duration, and/or the need to conform to state, federal guidelines and standards? Will large emergency and public works vehicles be able to safely navigate through the pop-up demonstration? What materials will be used, and are they weather hardy? How will the project be evaluated? 7. Gather feedback, build consensus, and evaluate the project. So how do you know if your project is a success? Ideally, plan to collect data before, during, and after the demonstration project is installed. When it comes to quantitative data, it's important to gather baseline data to examine changes over time. Qualitative data may be less impacted by time of day of week, weather, or special events. Document the project through photographs, surveys, or other visual documentation or data collection methods. 8. Communicate outcomes and next steps. Continue to foster engagement, input, and involvement to communicate project successes and the need for additional improvements. Also, document outcomes to justify the need to fund future permanent built environment improvements. For more information on pop-up demonstration projects, parklets, and stories of complete communities in Delaware, please visit the Delaware Complete Communities Planning Toolbox at www.completecommunitiesde.org. Please connect and follow Complete Communities on our social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. To learn how your Delaware community can partner with the Living Lab Research Group, please visit the Project Hub website. The Institute for Public Administration at the University of Delaware would like to thank the Delaware Department of Transportation for support of the Delaware Complete Communities Planning Toolbox and the Living Lab Research Group.